Time having arrived, I call the meeting of the Accounts Committee to order. I want to take a minute before we begin with the regular agenda to mark, list first of all the councils in attendance. Councilor at Large Wynne Farwell, Ward 7 City Councilor Shirley Azak, Ward 4 City Councilor Susan Nicastro, myself, Ward 6 City Councilor Jack Lally. We do not have the auditor with us. The auditor is under the weather and at home, but we do have her able deputy, and we are prepared to begin. Mr. Deputy, if you'd like to take it away.
Hello, everyone. For those who don't know me, my name is Juan Gonzalez, and I am the Assistant City Auditor for the City of Brockton. I would like to first and foremost introduce my Assistant Auditor for Schools, Aminata Sharif. If we can come up.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Congratulations on your position.
Thank you. My name is Aminata Sharif. I am the Assistant City Auditor for the School Department. I come to the City of Brockton with about 12 years of finance experience, so I'm happy to be here to serve the city. Any questions going forward regarding the school, finances, what have you, please reach out to me.
No, we're happy to have you.
Thank you.
Congratulations. Welcome aboard. Councilors, do you have any questions? No questions? All right. Thank you. We appreciate the introduction.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Agenda item number 1 is CARES Act and COVID money discussion with Dr. Troy Clarkson, and I want to thank a large part of his office for coming out today with him. Dr. Clarkson, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Happy to be here, and I do have from my team, Aaron Vega, Anthony, excuse me, I've done that since he joined us. His name is Andrew Barbetto, and Megan McKee, who are financial analysts on our team and have done extensive work on some of the issues on which we're going to talk tonight. So they are available if we have any other detailed questions. Erin has her laptop, which has access to Munis, so we can dig into the details. But essentially what we've provided you tonight for your discussion is a couple of detailed reports. One of them, Erin is the point person on our team, although everybody cross-trains and is involved in many things. But Erin is the primary team member who works with our ARPA funding. And so that spreadsheet you see before you is our ongoing accounting of our ARPA funding. So that lists the projects. I actually don't have a copy of it. Thank you. So that just lists the major projects and the funding sources of those projects. And as you can see, many of the projects are complete. We are still working on punch list items or finalizing some of those projects, including the one here at City Hall. So this separates out the direct federal appropriation that we got and then the Plymouth County appropriation. As I was discussing with Councilor Nicastro just before the meeting began, we are confident, based on the fact that some communities in Plymouth County didn't spend their entire allocation, that we will be receiving additional funds. We have until the end of calendar year 26 to spend most of these funds. As you can see, we've expended most of them. So it's been an incredible benefit to the city to invest in infrastructure. I will take a moment to, I think, plug our strategy a little bit. As you know, we made, and the we in this case is the big we, the mayor, the city council, my office, made a concerted decision to invest this money in infrastructure and not use it to plug holes in the budget. 60 communities in Massachusetts are considering operational override votes this spring. Many of them are failing. And I believe a lot of that is due to the fact that communities used federal COVID relief funds to plug holes in their budget and then now are dealing with structural deficits. So I think it was wise of us collectively to decide to invest this money in infrastructure. And frankly, we probably wouldn't have been able to do $55 million in projects in the normal course of business. So it's been a real benefit to the city. This renovation will shortly be completed. So this provides you a pretty detailed outline of all of those projects and what balances are left. I'm happy to answer any specific questions you have on that. The other detailed information that we provided you is on CARES spending. That spending terminated a couple fiscal years ago, but as you know, recently some questions have been raised about an existing CARES deficit that actually was discussed at this Accounts Committee meeting a couple of months ago. So we provided you a detailed munis printout that I think Juan provided that to you, that details most of that $3.9 million. This is an issue that we've known about since its inception. This was school spending on CARES-related, so COVID-related, but under the CARES Act program, school-related spending. And so we've been working with the Department of Revenue for a few years on this now, and they have allowed us to carry that balance until we can satisfy it. We made a strategic decision a couple of years ago when the deficit emerged to defer this deficit until we had the funds on hand. And so Juan and I are working closely together to develop a strategy. And we're working with the school department, because since all of those expenses in that deficit were school expenses related to COVID, we're hopeful we can work with the new superintendent and the financial team over there to devise a strategy of how to address that. I should have started out my comments, Mr. Chairman, in offering thanks and praise to Juan Gonzalez. As you know, Irene Giannopoulos, our auditor, has offered her resignation, so she will be leaving the city of Brockton as of next Friday. And Juan has agreed, and the mayor has agreed that he will be our interim auditor while we conduct a search. He's been with us for 4 years now, started as an intern and has risen through the ranks and has proven himself to be very capable, and he has the skills and the temperament to do the job. So I'm happy to sit alongside him, and also very grateful for the excellent service and the dedication of Irene, who's moving on for now to spend some more time with her family. So very grateful for both of them, and happy to answer any questions you have on either the ARPA or the CARES funding.
Perfect, thank you. And we do thank Auditor Giannopoulos for her service. I know she is, like you said, choosing to spend some more time with family, which I understand. Councilors, questions for CFO Clarkson?
Go ahead.
Councilor Farwell.
I'll start off by saying welcome, Juan, to new and exciting professional challenges. And to Dr. Clarkson and his staff, I want to take a minute and say that with you and Irene and others, we have made significant progress bridging the communication and collaboration gap with the school department. And as you know, that took an awful lot of your time when we had the deficit uncovered. I think the work that all of you did was certainly appreciated, and it's been verified by the Standard & Poor's global change from a negative outlook on city finances to a stable outlook. I have fortunately, and I shared this with some school people, I've fortunately been able to expunge some of the issues that I hear come out of the school committee and the allegations that come out of the school committee about the city is to blame for this and the council is to blame for that. And so I want to ask you directly, because I know there's been an allegation that the city is trying to claim that the deficit for the CARES Act funding is our municipal side problem. And I just would like publicly for you to talk about that a little bit and assure me that we verified that we have done what we were supposed to on this side, regardless of how this turns out. I just can't stand misinformation anymore. I think I've reached a point in my career where it bothers me. Allegations and misinformation just they don't benefit the public, they certainly don't benefit your office or us. So talk a little bit about the CARES Act, where we are with trying to resolve that, and just once again, please publicly reassure us that this is not something, we're not trying to obfuscate and claim the schools did something that we in fact did. And I'll let you go from there.
Thank you, Counselor. First, let me respond to your earlier comments, and thank you for recognizing that it has been an extraordinary effort by my team and by the school finance team to get us to where we're at, to get the recognition of Standard & Poor's, to change that outlook was a phenomenal development collectively for the city, and recognizes how hard we've tried to work together on the staff level. And you'll see next week during your budget hearings, you will see the superintendent of schools and I present not only a consensus number, but a united front of collaboration. And I am proud to be part of that, because it's taken a lot of work to get there. But I offer equal praise to my colleagues at the school department, including the superintendent and TJ Plant from OA and the entire school finance team. And the folks that sit behind me and next to me are a big part of that. So it's been an incredible comeback, and something of which we should all be proud, all of us. As it relates to the CARES deficit, that is a lingering challenge from during the pandemic, when there was spending related to pandemic relief. And the reason I provided that printout to you, and you know, we don't all speak Munis as fluently as Juan and Aminata and my team, but I asked Juan to print those reports out so that you could see that all of those expenses related to that $3.9 million CARES deficit were school expenses. However, now that the deficit exists, the city is responsible for addressing that deficit. One of the things that I've begun conversations with school officials about is that with the surpluses that they've developed, and we do anticipate that their spending this fiscal year will be slightly below what the net school spending is, that maybe we have an opportunity for them to participate in the solution to that, since those were school expenses. But the notion that somehow this is new and just being uncovered is not an accurate statement. We've been working for the close of the last 3 fiscal years with the Department of Revenue and carried this deficit over. We've been very public about it. I've spoken about it in this chamber. I think some of the statements have been unfortunate, but to be clear, everyone involved has been knowledgeable of this, understands that it needs to be addressed, and understands its origin, that it was well-intentioned but ill-advised spending during the pandemic.
And are we sure now that all of the expenses are being entered into Munis, and we're able to track for all city departments, especially the school department, exactly what is happening with spending in the various accounts within Munis?
Oh, without a doubt. And it was, Counselor, I think at your suggestion that we created the Assistant Auditor for Schools, that the position that Aminata now holds. And that provides us an extra level of security, of auditing in the truest sense, and an oversight to ensure that that occurs. And in her short time, less than a month being here, Aminata has already developed relationships with the school finance people and has been in meetings. I have been in meetings where that level of collaboration is occurring. I think the schools are far along in a search for a permanent school finance officer. And so I think we will very soon have a team on both the school and the city sides that works well together.
Well, it will take time, but I know that a lot of progress has been made. I talked to some school employees today in the transportation field, and they're very pleased with Gracious and her work, and Andre in the transportation office. I really think, given more time, we're going to position ourselves in a very positive way to handle revenues and expenditures and do what's needed, school, municipal combined. And I just wanted to get that into the record, that we aren't trying to, shall we say, stick it to the schools, because if we made a mistake, we should admit it and go forward. But if we didn't, I think it's important the public has the correct information.
Indeed.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. I also want to thank you, CFO Clarkson, for providing what we requested with the up-to-date expenses. So, you know, right before the budget, we have a pretty accurate picture of the percentages spent, which is pretty handy. Councilman Castro?
I would just like kind of an overview of maybe our largest projects under CARES and largest projects, maybe 3 largest projects under CARES and under ARPA. And I'd also like an idea of, I'm not sure the viewers at home know the whole story, that we have a CARES deficit. The school department spent too much, and how much that is and what they spent it on. So if you could just address that for a few minutes.
Sure. So the CARES Act was the federal legislation that was the first response to the COVID-19 pandemic. And generally, those funds were dedicated to immediate response to the pandemic. So masks, cleaning, air purifiers, lotion, in the case of the schools, furniture that allowed for sufficient social distancing. So there are a whole variety, and if you see in those reports, a wide variety of vendors to address the need to really completely change the way we operated, both a local government and a school department. Looking back, this is going back a few years now, but there was a lot of technology. There was actually technology here in this chamber to allow for remote participation. And so there were a whole variety of programs that were implemented to address the immediate needs of the pandemic, both from a public health and a public education standpoint, to allow the school department to continue to operate and to allow the city to continue to operate. The next phase of that federal response was the American Rescue Plan Act, commonly known as ARPA. And the guidelines from the United States Treasury on ARPA were much broader than CARES. And they allowed municipalities and counties nationwide and state governments to make adjustments to their infrastructure to address the issues of the pandemic, including air quality. And so we, if you recall, had a pretty significant list of projects, and when we came, the mayor and I came before the city council to accept those funds, you adopted some guidelines. And so we came up, and one of them was any project with a value exceeding $750,000 would come to the council for your additional approval. So we then developed a project list of projects that exceeded that amount, and then came before you and had discussions, and of course, you voted to support that. So from that, we embarked on a pretty significant infrastructure investment improvement plan that we are still working on. I might add, one of the things that we did, I think it would be great to have our ARPA project manager come back, because he has appeared before the council, because we're so far along in so many of these projects, so that the public can have a greater understanding of what we've done. But just as a couple of examples, one of probably the major project using the ARPA funds, and as you can see on this spreadsheet, which we can gladly post on the city's website, was about a $13 million project. This building in which we sit now is, I believe, one of the most, if not the most, architecturally valuable and beautiful municipal buildings in the Commonwealth. However, one of its great shortcomings is that it does not and never has had a fresh air system. It had an HVAC system, but it didn't recirculate the air. And so one of the major projects to improve the air quality in the City Hall was to create an HVAC system that brought in fresh air constantly, circulated it in the building, and then sent it out. As you might imagine, a building as old as this that doesn't have ductwork to accommodate that, it was an expensive retrofit. And so you've seen construction and people moving around, and that is to actually create a fresh air system in this building, which when complete very soon will significantly improve the air quality in this building. And as we know, COVID, the reason why that was approved and acceptable under ARPA was because air quality was a significant part of ARPA, and improving air quality, COVID is an airborne disease, will hopefully significantly improve the health of both the citizens that visit here and our people that work here. Another part of that project, again, because this is an old building, is the roof itself had leaks in several places. We've seen at some council meetings at times when there would be water entering into the council chamber during a council meeting. So another major portion of that project was to put an entire new roof on the City Hall to protect the air system that we're constructing. And because it was protecting that air system, that too was allowable under ARPA. So all of our expenses had to conform with those Treasury guidelines, are subject to a single audit because it's federal funding, but also we used the county ARPA funds for this project, so it had to pass yet another level of scrutiny by the county and their outside auditor to be able to be an approved project. So I think that's important because the money that was expended was not just on nice things that Mayor Sullivan and Troy thought we should spend the money on. There was a high level of scrutiny on all of this funding. And so that was about a $13 million project. We also spent nearly $8 million, as you can see in your spreadsheet, to improve the air quality, but also to expand the senior center, the Cruz Senior Center on Father Kenny Way, allowing much more room for seniors to congregate and meet and a healthy and newly defined space. In addition to the ARPA funds, we also got an earmark from the Commonwealth to assist us with that. And to provide a third example, many of us were there present at the ribbon cutting for the Cosgrove pool and have fond memories of Senator Brady waiting in the pool. And so that pool was constructed, I believe, in the late 60s, and it had never been renovated or upgraded, and so there's an entirely brand new public recreation facility there that was a combination of ARPA funding and a $3 million earmark that was secured by our federal legislative delegation to assist with that. So we made, again, that decision to invest most of that money in infrastructure. At the beginning of ARPA, we did use some of the funds to provide what was called premium pay to some of our first responders, which was an allowed use. And so we did provide some incentive pay to our first responders and other support staff that were eligible for additional funding because of the risks associated with the work that they were doing. There are several other projects that we've undertaken, including improving parks and playgrounds, and I believe every ward in the city. So it's really been a comprehensive infrastructure investment using these funds that'll have impacts for generations.
Thank you. And we overspent some of it?
No. So what I was speaking out was specific to ARPA. So our total allocation for ARPA funds was just shy of $52 million. You can see in this spreadsheet that my team put together. Our allocation was $51,787,000. We have allocated most or all of that. Again, that has to be spent by calendar year 2026. There are $4,333,000 remaining just because some of those projects are ongoing. But we monitor this very closely, and we have not, some of the projects have exceeded their estimates, but that's why we watch it so closely, to make sure we stay within that entire allocation of $52 million. And I should note, one of the strategies we employed that has paid dividends is, because these are high-value public construction projects, when we go out to bid, under the Massachusetts law, they would all require what's called an owner's project manager. What we did is hired, as you know, an employee who has those qualifications that has acted as the OPM on all of these projects. So we've saved, and I haven't done the calculation specifically, but I'm very comfortable in telling you we've saved hundreds of thousands of dollars by having an employee oversee these projects rather than hiring a contracted OPM for each project. The deficit we've been discussing was from several years ago, and that was from the first phase of the pandemic relief, the CARES funding, when the school department overspent on some of those expenses in response to the pandemic.
And about how much was that?
That was, I could give you an exact figure, but off the top of my head, it was just over $3.9 million, correct?
3.8.
3.8.
Wow.
That's why he's the auditor.
And you've seen that figure, by the way, when we provide you the end of the year free cash calculation by the Commonwealth. That has been a deduction in that calculation for the last couple of years. And I mention that only to dispel the notion that somehow this was newly discovered recently. Again, we have discussed it publicly since it was discovered, and this was prior to the overall school deficit. It's something that happened at the time of COVID, and we've been aware of and been working with the DOR to address for several years now.
So we're in a position where the city has to repay this $3.8 million?
At some point, yes.
Or the feds will come after us?
No, it's not that. It's that our financial statements, again, so when our free cash is calculated, and jump in at any time, but when our free cash is calculated on an annual basis, if there are any existing deficits, and you see that when you look at our free cash calculation, just for instance, if we have Chapter 90 reimbursements that aren't properly filed by the time that our free cash is calculated, then that's a deduction from our free cash, right? You have the overall, what's called fund balance. I'm simplifying it a little bit, but generally, that's revenues and expensive projections and budgeted but unspent funds, and that provides the foundation of that fund balance. And then in that free cash calculation, which is a snapshot of what our finances look like on June 30th, we then get deductions if there are any deficits that exist. So if there's a Chapter 90 reimbursement that hasn't been filed for, that'll get deducted. In this case, that CARES deficit is deducted from that free cash number. So if we don't want it to be hitting our free cash every year, then we have to expend funds to address it once and for all. And that's why I said earlier in my comments, I think one of the opportunities we have with the relationship we've now developed working with the schools is to work together to figure out how we can address that.
So that's an overspending. Is it true that we've had to return some funds that weren't spent under CARES Act?
No. No, and I believe what you're referencing is the letter that the vice chair of the school committee sent to the state auditor. I believe what he was referencing was Mass School Building Authority funding, and that statement was not accurate. The issue there was that there were school projects that were awaiting each MSBA-funded project. At the end of the project, it has an audit of that project that's conducted. And so when the project is all wrapped up and the audit is complete, it's sort of the final accounting of the project, and then we then submit the final paperwork into MSBA and get the reimbursements. So and it's certainly understandable given everything else that they had on their plate, but the final auditing of those projects was delayed for some time by the school department. And so the treasurer's office here hadn't done the final borrowing for those projects, awaiting the final closeout of those projects. And so that, by the way, has finally been done. And the reason why we had S&P doing an evaluation was because we were issuing both temporary and permanent debt, some of it related to those projects. And so that issue has been addressed, but it most certainly was not any failing or lack of follow-up by the city that was related to that.
Okay, thank you, gentlemen. Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Counselor. Counselor Azak?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good evening, gentlemen. So just to follow up with Councilor Nicastro's question. So there's a deficit of $3.8 million that was overspent by the school department in the first phase, which was the CARES Act, which you explained. That funding was to be spent on air purifiers, masks, cleaning supplies, public health. So $3.8 million, that's a lot of masks, that's a lot of air purifiers. What was that spent on? What did they spend?
So that's why we provided you a detailed report that Juan provided you.
Are you on this one?
No, that's the ARPA. There was a,
Which one is, we have a few papers here in front of us, so this one?
and
Right there.
This one,
Yeah.
okay. So
Yes.
this is what the overspending was on?
that's an actual list from Munis, which is our accounting software, which details, those are all vendors and invoices and amounts of invoices that were paid that detail what the money was spent on. And
So I'm just looking really quickly, chair rentals, obviously that doesn't fall under, so was part of this problem that money was spent that somebody at the school department believed it would be covered and it wasn't covered by CARES Act?
I'd have to go through, obviously it's been several years.
Okay.
That goes back 3 and 4 fiscal years.
I mean, I'm just looking really quickly at this, and thank you for providing this information. I'll obviously look at it a lot closer after this meeting, but, I mean, filming equipment, that obviously doesn't fall into what you explained would be covered by the CARES Act, the first phase of the CARES Act funding.
So I just gave you a few examples. The actual allowable expenses were pretty broad, and I guess to try to repaint the picture of where we were at, there was, it's easy for me or any of us to look back and assess what could or could not have been done. But if you remember living in the time and at the time, we were in very unprecedented waters. There were requirements of social distancing for students, for remote learning costs, for public health costs, and so the spending at the time was significant and at a breakneck pace to try to address the needs of the pandemic. So while I'm certainly not saying that that should have occurred, the response, I think, at the time and the philosophy was we need to do what we need to do to address the public health needs of our students and our faculty and staff, and certainly we felt the same way here in the city side, and there was simply not as much funding available because the CARES funding came through the county, not as much funding as available as perhaps was anticipated, and so yes, it's a deficit, and yes, it's something that has to be addressed ultimately, but I think at the time, all the officials, and very few, if any of them, are still here working at the schools, but the officials that were here at the time believed that it was an appropriate response to the pandemic, and that it was necessary. And I will say, I think at the time that was a sound judgment. It was an unprecedented time. And
we all agree with you. I'm not questioning that. I'm just trying to understand. So what was the total amount that the schools got for ARPA funds? Just for the schools? That they got into this deficit of the
3.8.
3.8.
so that was the, and I know I've thrown a lot of information at you, but just to draw the distinction, again, the ARPA funding was strictly for the city.
Okay.
The CARES funding is where the money was overspent.
Okay.
And that was an amount that was made available in tranches by the county for both the city and the schools. Okay. So the ARPA funding was actually segregated, and the city got its $52 million in ARPA funding, and then school departments throughout the Commonwealth got funding, generally through the Commonwealth, for school spending in a few different tranches. This predates all of that and goes back to calendar year 2021, fiscal years 2021 and 2022. And the actual allocation from the county, I'd have to go back and check. Again, I'm saying this from memory, but I believe it certainly exceeded $10 million, and I go back and give you that exact figure. Do you
And
know
that's
off the top
fine.
of
I'm
your
just
head?
trying to understand, I mean, 3.8 is a lot of money to kind of, to overspend. I mean, obviously it looks like it was throughout the department. It wasn't just one specific area. So for the city, or I consider the school the city. To me, they belong to us. But no matter how much they'd like to separate themselves from us, they are part of us. So for somebody to overspend that much and not have anybody realize it, I mean, I know when I'm buying, I'm going to use my example. I'm a florist. When I'm buying flowers for a job, I know how much I need to spend or how much I can spend. I'm definitely not going to buy, $100,000 worth of flowers for a wedding that costs $10,000. So I don't understand the mentality of overspending $3.8 million. It's not like a couple of $100 or even $100,000. 3.8 is a lot of money.
Well, I certainly don't want to purport that I'm speaking on behalf of those that were in positions at the school department at the time, but I think I said a few minutes ago, and I'll restate that.
Okay.
It was an extraordinary time, and I think the message in general was we need to address this pandemic, and it was an extraordinary event that none of us had ever experienced before. And there were overwhelming requirements and mandates on the school department to address distance learning and social distancing and public health. And there was assurances and beliefs that those expenses would be then reimbursed. And so it was not the normal course of business, right? And so officials, and we did the same thing on the city side, spent and tried to address the public health and the public response needs of the pandemic, and in real time and with immediacy and a scope and a breadth that was greater than anything that had ever been done before.
And I understand, and that I'm not trying to kill this, and I honestly, we all did what we needed to do to get through the times. I understand that. I'm just trying, so if this money was spent and the idea that we were going to get reimbursed by the federal government or the state or the county, and we weren't reimbursed for whatever reason, I mean, I just feel like that's a lot of money to have it be questionable whether it was covered or if it wasn't covered by the CARES Act. So is that something that, do we know why it wasn't covered? Why we weren't reimbursed for it? the state say, or, I mean, did the government, federal government say, oh, we don't cover chair rentals, or, I mean, for example, like,
Generally, and mostly, no, it was just that the amount of money that was spent in response to the pandemic was greater than the amount that became available by the federal government and/or the county to reimburse it. And I think that's a good way to put it, Counselor, because it wasn't like a regular budget line of, let's say you had a budget in your flower shop for $10,000 and you spent $100,000. That would be irresponsible. We can all agree to that. This was a different circumstance in which there was a global unprecedented pandemic and a need to address it with a belief that there would be funding to come back to reimburse it. There was funding that was available. The spending in response to the pandemic exceeded the amount that was available, and so that amount now needs to be covered. And I think that helps put it in perspective.
oh, that's understandable. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Counselor. Okay. I want to take the minute to shout out the county as well, because the county, faced a significant amount of pressure from the state to take that money from them. They held their ground. They had I think the lowest operational cost
Yes.
in the country, which provided a lot more money for us, and a lot of that money went directly to the schools to provide them with the remote learning systems they did need. So that was huge. So something that we're seeing now in a lot of cities and towns, which you alluded to earlier, is a lot of them are coming up on deficits in their school departments, in their, in the municipal side of government. And, you suggested that's part of, how they chose to spend their COVID funding. And I think part of it's partially how the state is handling Chapter 70 funding. This probably, I would say, hit us first. But is that something that we're currently being afflicted by? Is that something that's making things worse? Where are we on this roller coaster,
Excellent question, Counselor. So that's one of the good news stories of all this. And this whole episode with the school deficit has been extraordinarily difficult for all of us. But one of the positive outcomes has been the degree to which the city and the school department have risen to the occasion to work more closely together. As I mentioned a few minutes ago, the very creation of the position that Aminata now holds is a very public and outward statement of how important that relationship and that oversight is. So last year, due largely to that oversight and the increased collaboration between the city and the schools, as you know, the schools underspent, and there's lots of words that's used to describe this, but the schools did not spend the entirety of their net school spending. And then we made that money, we being the city, made that money available to them to use in this fiscal year so that they had the entirety of that money available for educational spending. It is believed at this point, and we still have some time to go and purchase orders are still being processed, but that there may be another amount of excess from this year. I think the fact that we can pinpoint those figures speaks to the heightened level of cooperation and oversight that's occurring. And that's something that's really positive. One of the things that we did not do, as I mentioned earlier, was use that pandemic relief money to replace revenue. And it was allowed, by the way, not under CARES, but under ARPA. You could use, we could have used up to $10 million in revenue replacement, meaning we could have taken $10 million in ARPA funds and plugged it into the budget. We, and that's the collective we, including you, chose not to do that. As I mentioned earlier, roughly 60 communities in the Commonwealth, that's around 20% of the communities in the Commonwealth are facing operational overrides this spring. And using pandemic relief funds to plug holes in educational funds and to address special education, transportation, and tuition is not the sole reason, but it is certainly a major contributing factor in those 60 overrides. Because even in spite of an existential threat of a huge deficit, we chose not to use that pandemic money to plug those holes. And so we're not facing a structural deficit right now. We balanced this current fiscal year 25 budget, and next week you will consider a balanced budget with an historic increase of $25 million to net school spending. And that's due to the fact that we are being responsible about the use of revenues. We worked closely with the schools to come up with that consensus figure. You'll hear from me and from the mayor next week about the work that went in to reaching that consensus figures. As you know, net school spending is formulaic in Massachusetts. So we take the amount of students in October and multiply it by a figure provided by the Commonwealth, and that's the amount we have to spend on public education. And in FY26 in Brockton, that's over $300 million. But then what we do is we work together to say, okay, well, what city expenses did we incur or will we incur that are wholly dedicated to education that we can deduct from that number? For instance, in the human resources budget, all of the health insurance for all school employees is represented in the city's human resources budget. So we deduct that number off the top. There are retirement costs that we incur for non-teacher retirees, and we're able to deduct those amounts. You've heard a lot discussed about Schedule 19. What Schedule 19 essentially means is it a credit for the city for administrative expenses that we incur that benefit the schools. So a portion of Juan's salary, a portion of my salary, a portion of the law department, because we all work on school issues on a regular basis. And so there's a formula that was developed here in the city by the school department many, many years ago that's been used, and it's a very complex spreadsheet, but it looks at each department and applies a calculator, and that is yet another figure. In the wake of the deficit, we had the opportunity to work very closely with the school finance team and with the superintendent on trying to refine that number and really reach a consensus as to what it should be. So again, that $251 million figure is a lot lower than a $300 million figure, or 340, I think is the exact figure. But it's due to all that work that went in. And the school committee voted, and they agree with that figure. We also spent a significant amount of time on the transportation figure, the non-net school spending, and that is a consensus number for next year for $17 million. The school committee voted on that number. So what we see is something we haven't seen for a bit, and that is a city and a school department working very closely together, talking about analyzing, crunching those numbers on a daily basis so that we can come to you next week and say, we agree together that these are the appropriate numbers. But most importantly, Counselor, that $251 million figure is built on revenues that we can stand behind. They're not all one-time sustainable revenues. But I've said that to you every year when I present my budget message, and I'll do that next week. There are some of the revenue in next year's budget will come from the sale of the police station. Because we're not at a point yet where we have the entirety of a $500 million budget built on sustainable revenues, right? We have a $500 million budget, and we generate about $180 million in property taxes. Right? Something's wrong with that picture. We rely heavily, more than most communities in Massachusetts, on state aid. Other communities where I've worked, we were 8 or 10 or 11% of state aid for the budget. Here it's over 50%. So we still have challenges, but I'm very proud of the work that's gone in over the last couple of years and the work that we've done to really forge trust and sound working relationships with the school department and their leadership.
Yeah. And just to, for the dignity of the city, the other communities you've worked in are a lot smaller and not gateway communities, so that
Correct.
it balances
Absolutely.
out. But yeah, the more financial independence we can get from anybody, I think the safer and the more secure we are. But yeah, it's a place to work from. Any other questions for the CFO?
Just a couple of
Councilor
follow-up.
Farwell, a follow-up?
If we could just go back to ARPA for a minute. 3.99 million for the May Learning Center. What is the status on that now? May Learning Center.
So that was and is the school use building.
Summer Street?
I believe it's on Summer Street, yeah, but it was, the reason why we used ARPA funds is because we were relocating whatever activities were occurring in the old high school. And so we purchased that building with these funds. And again, that was a county expense, yes. So not only did we have to ensure in our own right that that was an appropriate expense, we had to go through significant scrutiny, and the county hired an outside auditing firm to review all of the spending requests to make sure that they fit within the four corners of the Treasury guidance. And so that was reimbursable, so we purchased the building and then were reimbursed by the county for that expense.
And it is used now for?
Good question. I don't know exactly. I think since it's been acquired, it's been used for a couple of different things. I think there were some alternative programs there. So the activities that used to occur at the old high school were transferred over there. There might have been some changes since then about what specifically the activities are there now. I'm not sure.
It was a magnificent, or it is a magnificent facility, and if it's not going to be used, perhaps it is an asset that should be looked at for another municipal purpose or sale or something, because, if we pump 3.9 million into it, it certainly enhances the value of the property.
Yeah, without a doubt.
And then just one more comment on this. It's hard to go back 4 years, but it looks to me as though a lot of these expenses were to replace furniture, clean areas because of COVID. You'll notice that $11,000 from BC tent rental for COVID back to school tents, T-shirts for preschoolers. There's $171,000 here for Chromebook protectors, which I'm sure was for the high school, and it adds up. It adds up quickly. But I also think, and this is something that I'm glad we have the auditor for, the schools here and your team, Munis only works if you plug in the number that's allocated for a particular function, but then people encumber against that so that you have a running tally of your remaining balance. If you just let things pile up, and I heard a comment back in, I think FY23 or FY24, that they found a stack of 100 purchase orders or 200 purchase orders that had never been entered into Munis to encumber the money. So that would be like me having a checking account, but I never bother to enter the checks that are outstanding. So isn't that pretty much what happened? Is back then we did not maintain a running tally of the amounts that were allocated versus the encumbrances that were occurring. And so I think that's why we got ourselves into trouble, but I don't think we do that any longer.
That is part of what the dynamic was, yes. And as we learned post-deficit, there was a practice that was in place where many people throughout the organization, school side and city side, had the ability to waive those controls in munis and overspend a category. That has been, since the deficit, eliminated and very tightly controlled. And no one, other than the auditor and the budget director, have that ability to override munis and overspend. And so in the wake of the deficit, very strict procedures were put in place, and there have to be written requests for anyone, and again, it's only Juan and Elvira Lopes, our budget director, who have that authority by design. Not even I have that authority. And that is because that's not only a best practice, it was very important in response to some of the challenges that emerged after the revelation of the deficit, that the system just was not operating in a way that protected those budgetary limits.
Okay, and I just want to pick up on what Councilor Castro mentioned, this ARPA award document. At first glance, without having all of you here, it would be a little bit misleading, because you'll see down at the bottom, project totals, $55,787,719, but then if you look at the top, the total award is $51,787,719. It makes it appear as though there has been overspending, when in fact, we have not expended all of that money yet, correct?
That is absolutely correct. If you go just a little below that, the reason for the differences with those figures is because we got the $3 million earmark from the federal government and the $1 million earmark from the state government, so that the total at the top and the total at the bottom match.
Okay.
But I can see how you could look at that and not go all the way to the bottom. And
yeah, for those of us who don't do this for a living every day, if the earmarks had been up above that 55 million line, probably everyone would have said, oh, I understand now. And the reason I mention it is I don't want someone at home to read this and then say, well, you know, they're not telling us the truth, and it looks, you know, by their own figures, and I can't deal with that anymore. So.
But no, that's a great point. You know what? Before we put this up on the website, we'll switch those around so that
because those earmarks
it's clear.
make all the difference in the world. I mean,
They sure did. Yeah, absolutely.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Councilor Azak, you have a follow-up?
Thank you. Just a quick question on this detailed sheet. There's a 2021 Chevy Tahoe for $49,539.60. Do we still have that vehicle, or is it like, what happens with something like that? I mean,
And this is in the school's CARES money?
it's in this,
Yeah,
it's
that's
in this
CARES.
sheet that you gave me.
Yeah, I'll have to, could you point out where that is? Can you
Sure,
just
it's on
circle that one?
page 1, 2, the third page in from right in the middle. It's $49,539. It says 2021 Chevy Tahoe.
I'll follow up. The vehicles were an allowable expense under both CARES and ARPA, were a frequent use of the funds.
Sure.
That one,
No,
I'm not
that's-
specifically sure what it was for, but we'll follow up and get
Sure,
that.
and I'm just wondering, like, what happens in this case in a deficit? Is a vehicle still, like, things that there still are? I mean, obviously,
Yeah.
so it's ours?
I'm sure that we still have it. I mean,
Okay.
I just don't know off the top of my head what it was used for.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Circle that.
Thank
Make
you.
sure we
Good
follow.
catch, Counselor. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. CFO. I appreciate it.
Thank you all very much, and we will see you next week.
Oh, yeah. Buckle up. Long week. All right. Before we jump right into the warrants, I was going to, if it's all right, ask Ms. Sharif to come back up, just to give everyone another chance, another bite at the apple, ask any questions. I figured I would just ask, you know, how you've been finding the position and what your hoping to tackle or really get into in the schools?
Yeah, absolutely. I think Brockton Public Schools is an amazing school system. And like I said, I'm happy to here to serve the city. I'm excited about the relationship that I am creating. Like I said, my 1 month would be next week. And I've been able to go over to schools, speak with the folks that work there, their financial and AP staff. At this point, we're at the end of the fiscal year. We're just really attacking POs and making sure the purchase orders are closed out in appropriate time and manner, and that we have all the invoices submitted as well. So long-term, there are some trainings that I want to conduct with, maybe some of the managers that are there, financial staff, just for them to get a better understanding on what we do in the auditor's office. And just for them to know that their actions and, what they submit to us has repercussions, i.e., you folks. So, so that's kind of really what I'm focusing on right now.
Perfect. And yeah, I know it's been 3 weeks, but figured I'd ask.
Of course.
Councilors, any follow-up? Councilor Nicastro.
I was just going to say, in these months, I have received several calls from residents of Ward 4, which I represent, who were waiting for reimbursement or issued an invoice. In all instances, it was for transportation, and issued an invoice and were waiting a long time for payment. And so Irene was very good helping me figure out what happened in each instance. And in each instance, there was not complete information submitted that the checks could be cut and issued as quickly as the vendors wanted them. And so I bring it up because it's just so important, and maybe you've seen some of this in your short time there, to give you all the information that you ask for.
Right, and I have seen it, and it's on my list, and that's why I said learning and development is very important. It starts with the folks who are making these phone calls to the vendors, asking for appropriate invoices. My office has run into issues where, totals aren't making sense, per se. So I think it's more so the vendor needs to know what we need. Helping them with templates, pre-made templates, saying this is what we need in order to process your invoice and get you paid in an appropriate time and manner. And, follow up, having the folks at transportation know that if you haven't heard from a vendor within a week or two, how about calling out to them and being proactive and taking accountability for these vendors to get paid, because they are servicing our students in the schools here. So that's very important to us, and it's something that's on my list.
But I'm very glad to hear that, because I was starting to feel like I was the go-between person, which, happy to do it. You don't want residents to suffer, but it wasn't my role.
I hear you.
So thank you.
Absolutely.
All right. Thank you, Councilor. Anyone else? Councilor Azak.
I would just like to say welcome, and I love the idea of sending vendors templates so they know what we need, what the city needs, so I think that's really great. So welcome, and we're not as bad as we sound.
I'm happy to be here.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Councilor. Do we sound bad?
When I say we, I just, in general,
I know. No, welcome.
All right.
And
Thank you.
definitely you got your work cut out for you, but it sounds like you've got a good plan,
Absolutely.
so we
Got this.
appreciate it. All right. So, Mr. Gonzalez, if we can begin with the warrants. Let's see if we can borrow the laptop. Yep. Okay. Okay, all right. Councilor Farwell, do you want to start?
Sure, send me right into the firing line here. All right, so I will be on warrant P25109,
Okay.
and I think that's the one that you, yes, it is. And let's go to let's go P25109, let's go to page 8, and at the very top, There is a vendor, 29736. It's contractual services, $32,000. What is the contractual service? And if it's special ed, just tell me it's special ed and I'll understand. So, and you probably want the voucher
Purchase order.
number is 1097958. 1097958. 50,000 year to date. This one is for 32,000.
What is the purchase order number again? I'm sorry.
The person's name is John Calzada.
Purchase order. I'm sorry.
Oh, you want the voucher number?
Purchase order. I have it if you want me to shout it out.
The PO number. Yeah.
It's 380-50319. 380-50319.
It is special education.
Okay. That's fine. That's perfectly understandable.
It's bad.
The next one is on page, same warrant number. The next one is on page 11, and the PO number is 133-50410. 133-50410. It just says consultants, 9,900 to date, just below 10 grand, and this one, the payment is for 4,400, but.
Finance. No, that's just a purchase order. Can't pull this up. I'm not able to pull up the document that's attached to it.
That's okay, then if we can just, we can follow up with that,
Yeah.
no worries. The next one is a very small amount of money, but I haven't seen this noted on a warrant before. And we're going to go to page 13, same warrant, P25109, page 13. And the PO number is 323-53709. And a number of people received $100 for public safety. It just struck me as strange that we have a number of people collecting $100 and it's listed to public safety. So 323-53709 is the PO number.
I think, Council, that was something contractual. It's come up before from time to time. I don't remember which union. Oh, the bus drivers.
DOT. reimbursement.
Okay.
It's not quite completely accurate description, but it has come up.
Okay, so this is, let me see. Oh, okay, so unfortunately, it's the way it's notated here, and why do I keep saying that? The way it's listed here is misleading. It's really not for public safety. This is probably his DOT physical. A bus driver has to have an annual Department of Transportation physical. It can be done by your doctor, it can be done by one of the urgent care centers, and so I'll try to remember that when I see $100 and it's labeled public safety, it's for a DOT physical. But that really is a segue into something that I just want to mention to you, and we've mentioned it to Auditor Giannopoulos. The description in these warrants can sometimes be very misleading. And we really need to, I think, further define, refine, do a better job, because these are public documents. And the average person might want to understand what we're spending money for. If I can't, if I don't know, then the average person wouldn't know. So going forward, as you meet with us for 2 or 3 times, we'll probably emphasize that, and then hopefully you'll be able to guide the process along with Dr. Clarkson and others to further refine how we list things in this document, because I never would have guessed that. DOT physical, I would have known immediately. All right, let me see. All right, well, I think there's another one that's listed under other contract services, $100, so we're kind of all over the place with how we use that.
If I may say something in regards to the other contract services, I know that I've watched plenty of accounts committee meetings that they have stated about the other contract services. What I try to do now when my staff creates the grants, for example, for city side at least, we try to really drill down what they're going to be used for. We try to get away from the other contract services because it even throws us in auditing off when we need to audit these accounts. We really need to make sure, are you using it for consultants, is it for construction, is it for engineering, are you paying an architect? We really want to drill those down, and I've made it a mission now to make sure that departments put that in. And the general fund is pretty difficult to get away from that just because of the UMass, or the accounting system that the Commonwealth of Massachusetts uses. But when it comes to grants, we really drill down, so if a grant does end up coming up on the warrant, you guys know exactly what that's being spent on.
Okay. All right, well, let's go to page 28. So law firm I haven't seen before, at least I believe it is. Purchase order 151-50342, and there's 151-50343 also, $1,500 and $140. So let's go with the 151-50342, Mead, Tallerman, and Costa LLC, and it just says legal, $35,969 paid to date. Is that on the city side, outside council, or? Yes. Yeah.
I can assist with that one, Counselor.
Dr. Clarkson, you've got something for this?
Mead, Tallerman, and Costa is indeed outside counsel that provide labor law support and other support to the city. That is the law firm in the primary attorney that assists us used to be an assistant city solicitor here, so
Kate
it's
Federoff.
Kate Federoff's firm.
Okay. Well, interestingly enough, I see where we're paying money for draft emails for an intermunicipal agreement for water sales, et cetera, et cetera. Okay, let's see where that one goes. That's interesting. Thank you. All right, so let's go now to page 29. And New Directions Solutions LLC is the vendor. It may be special education. It's listed as contractual services, $67,738 paid to date. Let's go with purchase order number 380-50311. 380-50311. Yeah, it's special ed. You can stop right there. SPED, Brockton Public Schools, got it. Okay, that makes sense. The public probably doesn't know it, but special education services do not have to go out to open competitive bids, so you can pretty much call up anyone you want, have them do what you need done, and then pay whatever the bill may be. All right, so now let's go to page 31. And this is going to be another one of my things that I just don't like because I think we need more specificity. One-time vendor, if you look at that page, you'll see vendor 9999, and then you'll see the different, well, there's no purchase order. Sewer rates, it looks like we reimbursed somebody $25,365 for sewer rates, 54,000, water rates, strike that. It looks like we reimbursed someone $54,501 for sewer rates. If I don't know who's getting the money, then quite frankly, and I'm not accusing anyone of doing anything wrong, but I just think there should be a document outlining to whom this was paid. Whose bill did we abate? Why are we paying out that kind of money? And as a matter of fact, we've paid out $1,462,670 so far in apparently water and sewer rate rebates. So if you would just put that on your list of things to discuss, you know, it might be problematic to have to enter a vendor into each, you know, for each reimbursement. But, you know, it's really the way to go, to track it. I would think someone would want to know, okay, who got a bill rebated for $25,000? That's a lot of money. So just put it on your tickler list if you would. Thank you.
Yep.
And I may be almost done. Hold on a minute. All right, I'm sorry, page 39. The Stepping Stones Group, LLC, contractual services. Purchase order 380-50318. 380-50318, almost 51,000 paid year to date. $7,245 is this check. Probably special ed, but if I don't ask, I won't know.
It is special ed.
All right, thank you. Mr. Chairman, I am good for now.
Fair enough. Thank you, Counselor. I definitely look forward to finding out about the water rate and the sewer rate information. Counselor Azak, do
Thank
you
you.
have anything?
Yes, of course.
Never had a doubt.
So I have Warrants, P25-108. First off, I know where it's page 1, which is, let's see, PO 32353312. Actually, no, 32353609, which is listed as contract services for $1,210.06. These look like Amazon purchases, but that seems to be like a really large purchase.
Do you have the purchase order number?
Yeah, the purchase order? Yeah, that's one 32353609.
09?
Yep.
Yes, yep.
So
looks like it's on the
police
school side.
manuals.
Yeah, it says. So that's for books for the school police?
But it was ordered by Central.
Yeah, it looks like an updated police guide.
Was it maybe for the citizens' police class?
Well, that wasn't run by the school police, that was run by the city police.
This could be part of an educational or literature line item that they have contractually.
Sure, okay. Well, they look like all different books, so it's not
Right.
one book
It could
or
be,
multiples.
looks like a couple of copies of each. If you
Okay.
go up, there's a number next to each book.
Oh, how many they purchased of each one?
I'm guessing.
Okay.
I'm not sure. It looks like they bought 2 of each.
A lot of reading material, okay, thank you. Then there's another one that just right above it, which is a purchase order 385-51639.
385?
385-51639. It's for $802.01. I was just saying today, I don't know where we would be without Amazon.
10201.
We own a piece of his yacht, Counselor Azak.
I think we do. You should take us on a trip. I don't think we can accept them.
No.
So that looks like Ken Thompson, so it's got to do something with cameras, intercom system for the school. Okay,
They are known.
very good. So just a quick question before I go on. When we, years ago, when we were, when I was chair of the accounts committee, we had requested from our IT department to kind of expand the actual, whatever it is, the box in Munis, to be able to describe what some of these, the POs were for. And because it was done, but it seems like, is there, I mean, are you limited, whoever's putting in the information, are they limited to how much information they can put in there? Because I feel like sometimes the descriptions don't always match, you know.
When it comes to the short description, when you print out the warrants, there's only a certain limited amount of characters, but when it comes to when you're actually on the back-end system, we're making requisitions to turn to PO, you put in the amount, that bigger box that you see or that you saw about the Arnhem School and all of that, that is the bigger portion, but it's not going to show up on there because the system, there are limitations to munis.
I know we had that box expanded because it used to be very difficult to tell, it was limited, so I'm glad to see that's working. So there's no way to expand this so we could see it on the warrants, or?
Not that I'm aware of. I can ask IT again to let me know if that is an option. But if it's not, then I don't think
That would be
we can
great.
do
I
it.
just think sometimes, like I said, maybe they're putting in descriptions, but they don't always match, they don't always match what the warrant's for. And also another question, I know at the beginning of this year, we requested, I called it a cheat sheet or a key of what the different departments are. Did we ever receive that from, I don't remember getting it. I don't know if you all got it.
Don't recall, I don't
No.
think we did.
So I had requested, once again, years ago, we had, there's a cheat sheet, depending on the numbers, you could tell which department it was. So when we're looking at the warrants, we could, I think it's the number that's at the end, like the 5 number. It would tell you what department the warrant went to.
Right.
Could we get that? I know we had requested it from Irene, but I never received it. But I think that helps when we're reviewing these.
I can definitely get that for you as soon as humanly possible.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, it's been years, so I lost mine. Moving on, I will go to page 2. It's, let's see, PO 21050722 for $7,000. It says medical, but Ancora Psychological LLC. Okay.
Police.
Says psychological, pre-employment psychological evaluation.
Yeah.
Okay. Is it just one individual, or is it multiple individuals, or? It's a lot of money to,
It actually, could you just go back? Okay, stop. You can see it has people's initials.
okay, so it's
it was
multiples.
for 3, 6, it was for 7 people.
Okay. Thank you. The next, go to page, so to page 4. PO, where's the purchase order for this? It doesn't have one. It's actually right at the top of page 4. It says 4403 Brockton City of HITF. It's retirees, health insurance, $525,548. So is that so it's just the retirees that we're paying
Yes,
their
those
health
are,
insurance?
yes, those are payments that we make to, I'm not sure because I don't have the warrant on me, but
Sure.
those are payments that we make for health insurance.
So it's on here twice. So year-to-date, we've paid $36,488,452 for retirees' health care.
Yes,
That's
I
huge.
believe that's a culmination of a bunch of the insurance that we pay.
Yeah.
We know that the premiums are pretty high. We get like bills of millions of dollars, and this is one of them that we have to pay.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, just to Councilor Azak, if I'm right, we're self-insured.
We are self-insured.
Yeah.
We pay the bill, but we also pay a third party to administer the program, and it's costly.
It is, it's just a huge number. Okay, page 5. So this one is PO 8538500, and it's for $64,800. It says contractual services, but it says Carnegie Learning Incorporated, so.
And the year-to-date is over $1 million.
Yes.
Classroom support.
What is it?
It said, if you scroll up a bit, it says classroom support.
Classroom
mean?
support. Yeah, what does that mean? That's a lot of money.
Yeah, right.
This is also for a grant that the school department has. I'm not sure which one, but it's one of the grants.
Oh, so it's a grant?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. So it doesn't say what school or just in? That's, that's,
And coaching.
coaching of what?
Maybe teacher training?
Right?
Math on-site coaching support. Okay. Okay.
And it's for several schools, Shirley.
Okay. Well, that makes sense, because that's just that's a lot of money, so.
Yeah. Looks like they have several different trainers, coaches.
Okay. And this is an ongoing thing. Okay. Next, let's see. Page, well, I'm just going to use this as an example, but page 11, and I don't have to give the warrant, but it's vehicle repair and maintenance. We have a lot of POs that come under, that are listed as vehicle repair and maintenance, but I remember we expanded our repair, like we hired mechanics, like we're not repairing our own vehicles.
That I
You're not
would not
aware
know.
of?
Yeah.
I just see that we have a lot of repair, and I remember specifically, we hired mechanics, and a lot of it was to repair some of our own vehicles, so we're not spending so much money, but it doesn't, we're still spending it.
That might be a good budget question.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Page 13, so PO 22051273, $1,299, which isn't a huge amount of money, but it's listed as building grounds repair, but also the vendor is George Washington Toma, which I think is, sells appliances, so I'm not
What is the PO number again? I'm sorry.
sure. 22051273.
Excuse me.
I'm going to guess and
It's for a
say fire
fridge.
department.
It's for a fridge?
Yeah, on
For
the
a
last
fire
page.
station.
Oh, okay.
It's for a fridge.
Okay.
Single door fridge.
That's fine. And this is where it comes in where, like, I feel putting in what it's for kind of doesn't match. So, I think that would help eliminate a lot of questions. Like if it said appliance or whatever, it would fit in, but it's, okay. The next one is page 14, and I'm just going to, I'm pretty sure I know what it's for, but it's PO 610-51049, and it's for contract services, $200 for Philip Historis, which is our poet laureate, so I'm figuring, is that what we pay him, or is that what?
Year-to-date, 800.
Yeah, 800 year-to-date, wow. Because when we wrote the ordinance, it was just, there was no, unless he's doing some other work, I don't know.
Looks like he's being paid for programming,
Programs.
He's getting paid for program?
Yeah.
for putting on programs. like
A poet
events-
laureate?
Like events or a class or something.
Yeah.
Looks like.
Oh. Interesting, okay. It doesn't say for what, like what classes?
Keep going.
Keep going.
Coping with bereavement. I heard that was very good.
Oh, okay, so this is his own, like, it has nothing to do with the poet laureate?
Does not appear to be.
No, it does, because he used poetry.
Right, that he wrote a book, right, correct. Okay. Next one, well, once again, a lot of these are the equipment repair, which I think, once again, I'll ask that during budget, but they're on the next few pages. But one I would like to bring everybody's attention to, and that's the PO 162500044. You don't have to look it up. It's for $12,503. It's for election census. That's what it costs them to mail out the census. So please fill it out and read it, and don't throw it in the trash. Let's see. Next one. So this is page 18. It's a number of POs, but the first one is 22051243. It's there's vehicle repair and maintenance. They're all different amounts. It falls under Lynch's Towing and Service. So is Lynch's Towing doing repairs for us, or?
Yeah, I think they do police repairs.
Oh, they'll do the
I
repairs?
think DPW repairs a lot of their own, counselor and fire does, but I believe
Police.
the police vehicles go to Lynch's.
And inspections.
Okay, so that's what they are, okay. Then the next one's on page 19. It's for PO 1715002, and there's 4 of them for $165. It's for the Mass Association of Conservation, I'm figuring commission, so it's tuition and training. So is this for our, the
members of the
Conservation Commission?
Yes.
So is this, so they are getting their training? Because I know a lot of times people will ask, like, so this is what it costs. But there's only 4 members? I thought we had multiple members.
There might have been one that was already on it, so she
Okay.
didn't go.
Who may have already received the training.
Okay. Very good. On page 21, there's more of these that you questioned, Counselor Farwell, for the $100. There's a lot of them.
Yeah.
And they're all other contract services, so would these all be like bus drivers?
If you
I would think so.
If you take a look, some of them have under invoice, a couple of them that have come up in these have listed, like Mass DOT, physical examination, things like that.
Okay.
I recognize some of these names.
That's
so
why,
I'm
yeah,
gonna
that's what I was thinking.
assume, yeah.
Okay. So then just further down on page 21, 85315039 for $4,950, and right under it for $5,400 for other contract services for Maria Mombalor.
85315039.
Yeah.
This is for a school grant as well.
Okay. The Payne School, isn't that one of the ones that's closed? Which one is the Payne? Down on, isn't that the one on?
It was the Adult Learning Center.
It's for a grant.
Okay.
I don't remember what program they have in it now, but it was the Adult Learning Center. Counselor, it's by the Plouffe.
Okay, so that's what,
It's operational.
so this is multiple, so, because it's year-to-date.
The Payne School is where the adult learning
Lesson.
used to be? Yeah,
Yes.
there's another program in there now.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Okay, so this is what, thank you. Let's see, more of the truck repairs. Let's see. Then on page 26, there was a list of a lot of POs listed under Plymouth County Registry of Deeds, so I'm figuring they're fees for title searches possibly, or I'm not sure what else they would be for, but, well, they're all different items. Do you want me to give you a PO?
Yes, please.
Sure. So 1097201.
109. That's the voucher.
That's a voucher.
Mhm.
And what's under it for 500?
The right of it.
Is the purchase order.
Oh, sorry, did I? 147-50218. Wow, that's so hard to read. Okay. What's that say? Single flag? What does that mean?
Instrument of taking and redemption.
Single flag means that when the treasurer makes a check after we do the vendor warrant, we print out physical checks and we hold the check, or department holds a check, so then a vendor comes in or someone comes in and takes a check. So they have the single flag on the PO to denote that they're holding that check for someone or a business or whatever the case may be.
Okay. So this says instrument of taking, redemption, 106,
I'll bet those are tax liens.
tax
I
liens.
bet those
Yeah.
are recording
Fees.
tax liens at the Registry of Deeds.
And then there's right under it for $530, so would that be for multiples of them?
It could be.
Let me give you the next PO, which is 147-50228. And that's for $530. And there's multiples of these, so they're just
What's the PO, please?
147-50228.
Five of them, yeah.
Yeah. 5 at $106 each.
Okay. So, wait, can we just go up a little? So the purchase, where it says purchaser,
It's
it's the city, the purchaser.
Right.
Right, if you look at the description, it's
Uh-huh.
the same description as the last PO, but it says 5
Five
at
of
a
them.
fee.
But that's
Of,
weird that it wouldn't say like what addresses or what these are related, like, doesn't say anywhere what, because there's a bunch of them, so.
I think that's just for the service. I think the Registry of Deeds or the Assessor's Office could probably give you the properties that they correspond to.
Okay. Let's see. I think that was it, pretty much. That's it for me. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Counselor.
I do have to say, there's heating and air conditioning that's on these warrants, but I'm pretty sure nothing's
for
going
here.
It's not for
Yeah,
here.
not
Like,
yet.
Can we invest in an AC in this room?
I understand from the clerk that the new AC will be turned on Monday
Oh, thank
before
God.
we begin our hearings.
Get the
There we
bug
go.
out.
All right, I will just shout out one thing I noticed, and again, not something that has to be looked up, just an observation. In warrant P25-108 is a couple of bills paid to Murphy, Hesse, Toomey, and Lehane,
Right.
which is the legal counsel for the school committee and the
What
school
page?
department,
What page?
page 21. And the only thing that I would call attention to right now is the year-to-date, which is $202,309.20.
Well, that's quite a client to have.
Which seeing as they deal primarily with one lawyer, makes me wonder if it would be more cost-effective for there to be a lawyer that they pay, a member of their team, an employee, and not just have that contracted out. But that's just an observation I wanted to make.
Okay.
Councilor Nacastro,
Excuse me.
you have the floor.
Thank you. Good evening, Mr. Gonzalez.
Good
Thanks
evening.
for all this. So I have warrant P25-112. And let me just say to my colleagues that I wrote to Juan this morning, and I asked for 2 reports. And the first one was a report of all that we've spent in FY '25 on special ed tuition out of district. And to date, we've spent $11.2 million on special education out of district placement, 11.2. And then I asked him to run a report and tell us how much have we spent for special education transportation to the out-of-district placements. And we've spent just under $10 million. So that's $10 million for the transportation and $11 million for the education. And I point this out because I can't help wondering, would we save money by bringing some of this education back into the district? And that's not something that we can determine, but at the same time, it is something that I do plan to bring up, because this shift happened not that long ago, that we send more and more of our special education students out for education. And I want the best for all of our students, just as I wanted the best for my own. But I'm just wondering, can we control some of these expenses by keeping them in-house? And I appreciate you worked with other people, but I appreciate you having those reports done for me. Thank you. It's a lot of money. So on warrant P25-112, my first question is on page 8, and the vendor is Blythe World, Inc., and the PO is 610-511-41, and it's for membership. And I'm just wondering, who ordered it? Who did it go to? I'm thinking it must be the library.
Yep, it's the library right there. Probably one of the programs they offer for the summer.
I'm thinking it's a membership that you can go and visit the place.
It says museum pass renewal.
Right, museum pass, okay. There was another one of those I noticed on Counselor Azak's warrant. Okay, that's good to know. Maybe I'll follow up on that. And on the same page 8, a few matters down, Boston Herald, and the PO is 175-40007. And it says it's for printing, and the year-to-date is only $3,900. I suspect it's going to be for legal notices, but I wanted to make sure.
Planning board.
It's for the form-based code legal notice.
I thought we just had to advertise it in the Enterprise. You have to put it in the Herald, too?
Sometimes you gotta go big.
And the other thing about it is, and I did speak to to the clerk about it, the Enterprise has been giving us a really hard time about timing.
I know.
And so we can use the Herald, and it may cost a little more, although it probably doesn't, but we can get it in time within a few days. Okay, so that's that one. All right, page 9 of this warrant. The PO is 323-53822, and it was issued to Brockton City of Tax Collector for water and sewer, $976.39, but the year-to-date is $477,800.
That's the bill for Summer Street for the
Yeah.
May Center.
Wow.
Yeah, it's interesting how we pay ourselves for our own water, too.
Right.
I thought
Or
we
the
exempted
schools.
Yeah.
local
Rebated.
government.
Schools.
That's a rebate.
That's a
Oh.
rebate.
Oh, there you go. It probably went out by mistake.
That's interesting. A lot of money.
Oh, it's a stormwater bill.
Yeah.
That's right, okay.
So the schools are paying stormwater bills.
No, I thought
No,
they're not supposed to. We,
No, it went out,
It's the return?
yeah, it went out in error.
Well, that's very interesting. Okay, and the next one is on page 11 of the same warrant. And the PO is 804-15170. And all it says is other contract services.
This is something that I'm trying to look at in my office, even as the assistant auditor. Before obviously being put in this position, I was constantly looking at not just city side, but school side as well, as to how they denote certain things on the POs.
Yes.
That's something definitely to clean up for sure, because if I were to pull something up like this, I would have the same question as you. What is it?
Yes.
You can't just say contract services. Like, what is the service for? Is it, legal? Did you pay someone to teach, or
Yes.
whatever the case may be?
And it's going to an individual person. So, again,
so through you, Mr. Chair, to Councilor Castro, we had a similar item back a few months ago. I don't know if you remember, it was also listed as Title I, and it was to a Kathleen O'Brien, but it was over at the the Trinity School or
there's
something.
there's one
Yeah.
of those in here
Yeah.
too, to the same person.
Yeah.
So this is for Title I reading services at Trinity Catholic Academy.
Right.
Okay.
Which I thought was interesting because they're a private Catholic school, so how are we paying their,
Oh, I know about that because my kids were offered that when they were at St. Cashmere's. We offer it at every school in the city
but so the city,
That's a
Pays the-
federal
because
grant,
it's
though.
federal,
Federal
it's,
grant?
yeah,
Title I is-
The money goes through us, not,
Yes.
it's not from us.
that's right, that's right. Okay, thank you. Page 12. The PO is 380-50307. And I'm just interested to know, I'm sure it's for some kind of educational learning, but it just says contractual services, but the year-to-date is almost $394,000.
This is for special ed as well.
It's a sped.
Yeah.
It's interesting they use the Summer Street address for that.
Yeah. Special Education Office. And I'm not aware of it being there. So it doesn't say very much. Intervention services. E-instruction.
intervention services.
Yeah. That's very interesting.
Which,
When you have a chance, can you ask and find out more about this one?
Yes.
Thank you.
Let me write that down real quick.
Tell me when you're ready for the next one.
Good.
Are you ready? Okay. Page 14, the PO is 135-50229.
502, what's the last two?
135-50229.
29.
Oh, keep going, keep going.
Yep.
That is for Clifton Larson Allen,
Yep,
our outside auditor.
Auditor.
yep.
Yeah, this is for our external auditors. We have to pay them for services that they provide, in particular with the audit and among other things.
So the year-to-date that they've charged us is what we've paid, or, I'm sorry, that we charged us, it's $233,100. I've heard people in conversation accuse us of not auditing the city, but of course we audit the city. We're required to, and this is who does it.
Yes, we are always in direct contact with Jennifer Cook, who is the director, and also with Zach Fentros. And we work with them to complete the fiscal 24 audit. They also help us fill out a form that we have to report to the federal government because we receive funding of over $750,000 for federal grants. They help us out with a bunch of services as well for auditing.
That's great. Okay.
It should also be noted that in addition to the internal audit and the Clifton Larson Allen external audit, the DOR checks our books as well before they
Regular.
certify us to implement taxes for any year.
Sure they do.
We have to
Yeah.
have our audit complete every year for the Department of Revenue to certify our free cash and to set our tax rate, for people who didn't know that.
Okay. Page 18, and the PO is 380-50340. And there's two POs here, and one is for SPED, and that's the one I just gave you, but then there's a different one that says it's for building, grounds repair, and maintenance. And I probably should have given you that one. And that's also for Summer Street.
Oh, that's, yeah, environmental services, yeah.
And that's what EOMS stands for.
Yeah, that's Mr. Tarantino's business, and through the chair to you, Counselor, and it probably looks like they swapped 4 shred totes. They must be shredding documents down there.
Right. Right. And what would the other one be, I wonder, the $935?
Well,
May I-
that,
what?
I'm sorry.
May I give you another PO?
Yes.
Okay. It is 546-50249.
Can you repeat that again? I'm sorry.
No problem. 546.
Yep.
50249.
This is lawnmower parts for the cemetery.
Rent roll-off swap.
Roll-off
The
rental.
dumpster, 30-yard roll-off.
Okay.
Dumpster at the cemetery?
Yeah? Yeah, there is one.
They have to
Probably,
pick
you
up
know,
Dead flowers and things and throw
Yeah,
them out.
yard waste.
As long as it's all, if it's enough.
I'm just going to ask for 2 more because of the time,
Yeah.
okay? I missed that one. Page 30, and the PO is 186-50061. Oh. It says other contract services.
That's rent for the planning department. See in the bottom, in the left there, it said monthly rent.
This one is for the CDBG grant, HUD grant that the planning department currently has.
So it's paid by CDBG for the planning office. Okay. Okay, one more. Tell me when you're ready, Juan.
I'm good.
Okay. This is on page 32, and the PO is 380-50330.
It is for special education as well.
Again, at Summer Street. Excuse me. Pro-care therapy.
Right, in Atlanta? Where's this? The service is in Atlanta, Georgia?
Probably the home office.
I don't know what that is. It's a lot of money. Can you check on that one?
Yes, I can.
Oh, look, they punched in their time, so it must be some sort of remote.
Right.
They have a lot of backup for this, that's for sure.
Yeah. I'm just wondering, what's it for? Thank you, that's it for me.
Thank you, Counselor. I do want to add to something that you said earlier, and I think, you know, I'm in agreement about how a couple of years ago, and this came up when the schools had their deficit, it came up that, and I know that Councilor D'Agostino and Councilor Minicello were pretty, invested in it. The sort of concern that Brockton had, you know, such a really good reputation for its special education services, and then that was sort of gutted and privatized by, you know, people who were making those decisions. And it wound up, I'm sure the services are fine, we want them to be, but in addition to the cost of those services, which came in more than what we were paying, the transportation costs then jumped up, so that cost millions more a year to disband a program that seemed like it was doing a pretty good job to begin with.
Right.
So I just wanted to.
Reasons, I'd be
Oh, I'm sure.
interested to know what they are.
Yes, yeah. Okay, so I'm going to skip a couple that I'll run down with you later, Mr. Auditor, that are, you know, small amount, other contract services that I think it's probably just somebody putting in something vaguely. I want to take a look at PO 210-50714.
Page.
Page 13, warrant P25-106. This looks like it's to the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. It looks like money we're paying back on the cherry sheet, which we've already, oh, no, it says firearm licensing fees, or license fees.
Yeah.
Okay, all right, fair enough. I've got another PO for you, thank you.
Page.
It is page 22. PO number 421-50707. It's to Hawkeye Fence, so we should be able to infer what it's for, but its description is other contract services. It's $9,500. So I just wanted to see if it was anything that for some reason wouldn't be under, grounds or maintenance or anything like that.
It's to highway. It says fencing.
Yeah, fencing. Makes sense.
Mhm.
What page was that, Counselor?
22. All right, if you,
Doesn't say where.
it says, if you go up slightly, it looks like it says Petronelli Way in the box that's cut off there.
Yeah, it does.
Could that be for the Marvin Hagler statue?
That's what it sounds like, 4-foot wide arched walk. Gates with
I'm thinking
lockable
that's what it's
latches.
for. Okay, thank you.
Yeah. That's a good price for that type of fence.
Yeah. All right, so I had one more in the interest of time. PO
What page?
page going all the way back to page 9. PO 543-50114. It's to the treasurer's office. The description is veterans cash benefits. And the invoice lists a name, but then that name is listed next to veterans cash benefits later down in the PO. So this is something that maybe it might be better for us in the interest of privacy to look at this offline, just in case there is someone attached to it. But
There is.
yeah, and I saw the year to date and I saw the money back, and so I just didn't know what that was about. So I figured I would inquire. But that is all I have for this. I know we've covered a lot of.
You'd like to follow up on that?
Yeah, offline, just to see if money's going back. A lot of people depend on those benefits. I want to make sure those benefits are going where they need to go.
That's right.
But that's all I've got. Mr. Gonzalez, I thank you for your time. I have to commend you for how adeptly you leapt into this role. And in the interest of time, I will, if nobody has any closing remarks, I'll adjourn us.
Just suggestion for our next.
Counselor?
The issue of special ed costs is huge. And my understanding is there was a woman who worked for the school department in the special ed department. I don't know if she was the director or not. And forgive me, I do not remember her name. I texted someone to get it. I believe her first name was Lori, L-O-R-I, and she was working to try to mainstream as many kids as possible into the Brockton Public Schools programs, because as one who drives special ed kids, they're not happy riding in a van for 45 minutes or an hour in
That's
traffic. And once I get her name, Mr. Chairman, I'm going to ask that you perhaps contact her and see if she'd like to come in to talk to us at a future meeting.
Okay.
Because she'd be a wealth of information about perhaps what we could do to recommend some changes to the school administration and cut down on that total of $21 million.
Right.
Yeah, and it could be a good time for us to check in with Kim Tsai as well.
Yes.
Attorney Tsai.
Sure.
Just some information, Mr. Chairman.
Sorry, Zach.
A lot of that money also comes, I believe, through McKinney-Vento. It's a lot of,
Yes.
there's a lot of money that comes in for that.
Well, the money I don't know if the money comes in. I know we're obligated to spend it under McKinney-Vento.
Right.
I know there's a lot of grants that involves a lot of,
Become eligible, okay.
Yeah.
Fair enough, yeah, whatever we can get. All right, but with no other business before us, councilors, Mr. Gonzalez, I thank you. And we will adjourn for the night.
Okay.